The Roma Cup. Oh, my goodness. Well, this is going to be interesting. Straw poll.
Indeed. Was the right decision made, punters? And I guess a lot of it are probably going to come through speaking from the pocket, Marty, which is where generally most of us do find ourselves speaking from. But see if you can take a look at it just take a step back from the vehicle and give it a non-biased view if you can. In the end, it was the boss lady that was elevated to winning the race on its own. Geez, it was a tight finish. I must admit, I actually thought the boss lady might have just had a pixel on its side when I got a look at the initial look when they went to the down low and they had the two of them heads up, heads down. And just to the first glance, looked like there might have been the smallest of margins to the boss lady. But in the end, that was declared a dead heat. So that took a bit of getting through. And then, of course, the protest with Brad Parnham and the boss lady being elevated over Joker's Grin and Paddy Carberry. Generosity was back in third. But it was a stunning day of racing, not just here locally at Ascot.
Wow.
Tell us a little bit what you thought about this program at Randwick yesterday. Holy moly. A bunch of the headline acts turned up ready to rock and they rolled home there yesterday. It was superb viewing. Of course, Damien Lane aboard Treasure the Moment had to work OT to get past a couple of the longer price runners and get the job done in a slowly run Australian Oaks. It was a superb performance. Via Sistina, simply stunning in taking out the Group 1 Queen Elizabeth Stakes there. That was some race. Fangirl getting the job done with J-Mac aboard, defeating Steffi Magnetica on the backup after winning the Doncaster last week. Was a sensational performance. A Tissue back there in third place. But a stunning day of racing right around this great nation. Send through your thoughts. If you've had a fill-up or you've been unlucky, let us know. We'd love to hear about it this morning. 0427 789 571.
We've got one right off the top from Snoz. Hope you're having a good week. Marty, morning. There is a Machino racing today at Gero. Race 3, number 9. It's called Shashino, and it's a $8 chance. Snoz likes that. So there's an early tip for our punters to follow in. Hi, guys. Bluey here. Great to see the Perth Demons have won a game.
Hey.
Got a win yesterday. They beat the Garlic Munchers. And as an Eagles supporter, it's becoming embarrassing to watch as a supporter of my team now. Gee, they were lamentable again yesterday. They were very, very ordinary.
Plain. There was just... And listening to the post-game analysis, it was the poorest contested game handed in by a side in many, many years, which would be concerning because it's okay to be done for skill... But you cannot ever, ever, ever deny the fact. And they gave themselves up with the effort they put in against Brisbane up at the Gabba. That was they put in that day. It was a narrow margin that they won by. Since then, Brisbane have beaten everyone. That day they tackled. They were ferocious. They were savage at the contest. They're the same skill set that they had on that day they've had since, and they've been blown up with a lack of effort.
They're picking and choosing. Here's a man who doesn't pick and choose. He's got his way back. Our man who's been over here covering the NRL and James Sullivan. A very good morning.
Hello, Marty. Hello, David.
Hello, Sul.
How are we?
Going beautifully. How are you holding up after the hit and run across there? Are you back on the East Coast? You've had the midnight. Gee whiz, you'd be enjoying a lay down later on this afternoon, I'd suggest. How was the flight?
Yeah, not bad. Yeah. I'm on the red eye, and mind you to say that, Mr. Bennett was on it, and Blake Sully, and Cody Walker, and Cam McGuinness. There was a few of the guys that were involved yesterday were on it as well. So they must have all wanted to get back. Yeah, I've got a couple of games to call this morning, and then shoot out and watch the young fella, and I'll be looking for a bed at about 8 o'clock.
Just on that quickly, Sol, gee, there'd be a few of those boys. You'd be hoping that they lobbed the seats with a little bit of extra leg room. Can you imagine after playing such a taxing game, being cramped up, you'd want to hope you had a little bit of extra room to operate, as they're not the smallest men going around, most of those either.
No, you're spot on there. So, and yesterday a taxing day, but yeah, that was a good day. I thought it went well. Yeah, 30,300 people there. The thing I did like was how many different jerseys were worn, and there's a lot of Rabbitohs fans there, and there's a lot of Cowboys fans, and it was good. Yeah, it was a good day out.
Let's talk about these first two games then. It was the Sharkies 24, Seagulls 18, followed by the Rabbitohs 16, Cowboys 24.
Yeah, it was one of those games. The first one, it was a end-to-end sort of stuff. It was 8-0 at half-time after we didn't see anything happening in the first 34 minutes. And I thought at one stage Nico Hines' goal kicking might let the The Sharks down, but in the end, big second half, mate. William Kennedy was outstanding for the Sharks, and we saw end-to-end stuff. He scored a 90-metre try, then they took it back, and it was quite toe-and-toe game, which was so important for both sides, as we knew. But now, the pressure's on both of these sides now. Or in particular, the Sea Eagles, they've lost 2 in a row. Sharks, the importance of that game, they've come to Perth now and won 4 in a row, the Sharks. So they definitely like the joint. And as you said, the other game, well, it wasn't the greatest first half of footy. It was 6-4 at half time. Cowboys leading, and then, I'm still shaking my head about this one. It just really totally changed the game. A tackle Jack Whiten put on, I can't remember the player 100%, but now, Drinkwater probably was, but Jack Whiten's been called a hip drop, mate. It's not a hip drop. At the end of the day, you're tackling from behind. So that I really think it totally changed the whole facets of the game, because young Jackson Purdue, I hope the listeners were listening Friday.
Yep.
We threw this kid out. Yeah.
And he's doubled down. He doubled down, Sol, with a double late in the game. Very important tries for the Cowboys. Unfortunately, as great as it is to have the Rabbits come and visit here in WA, it's been anything but a happy hunting ground. What's that, 5 losses in a row now here in WA for the Rabbits?
It is, yeah. 5 losses in a row. And they weren't far away. And, we knew, I thought it was pretty honourable performance. I know you don't get points for that, but obviously no Walker, no Humphreys. They're missing some good cattle in that side. But they showed, I thought Latrell was pretty good. But that's a big win for the Cowboys, because it actually becomes a 4-point win, because they've got the bye next week. So they're slowly starting to resurrect their season. They won 3 in a row. And as I said, the bye as well. So, it ended up being a good day of footy.
Okay, talk about the other game. It was up in Darwin, wasn't it? With the Raiders, your boys are going along nicely, and they toned for the Eels 50-12.
50 points, Sol. The boys with horns. The place up there obviously agrees with them, piling on 50.
Mate, 24-6 at half time. It was all over. The Eels, they can't get weight out of Darwin because they haven't won a game there, and their contract finished. Their contract finished last night. I think they played 4 up there. And, that was it. They'd be pleased not to see the joint again. But this Raiders side...
So we don't like to rub it into the boys, the train and also the McDermott boys, but it's fair to say it doesn't matter where the Eels have been playing of late, they haven't been getting the dubs. It's been a pretty rough trot for them.
I saw the train last night at Cannington, and I was watching his body language, and it wasn't conducive to a win.
Poor Train.
He looked very despondent, poor Shane. I didn't want to say anything, though. I didn't want to rub it in. But isn't it funny? You got a side that's, at the end of the day, we know the Raiders have been on the road. I think they've travelled 30,000 Ks so far this season, and Ricky's still whinging. So they won by 50-12, and Ricky's whinging. Oh, come on, Rick.
What's his blue? What's his blue this time, Sol?
Oh, he's blowing up about the travel, and we've done this, we've done that. Mate, you knew at the start of the year. But at the end of the day, they've got to go to the Gold Coast this weekend, and then they'll get lots of home games at the back end of the season. So stop worrying about it, Ricky. But that sits them up there nicely in the top 8, doesn't it, the Canberra Raiders?
Certainly does. Just quickly, the Friday night, or the double header, the Dragons and the Titans, they were too good. 38-16 St George, and then Broncos. What about this? We want to talk about this upset. Broncos 16 and the Roosters 26. Yeah,
as you said, upset. Led 20-12 at half time, the Roosters. Billy Smith grabbed a double early, and we're waiting. We're waiting in this second half for the Broncos to do something. They didn't. A little bit of defence mentality. It was strong mentality too from this Roosters side. So, the Roosters, they were due. I think we spoke probably a month ago about they're going to be that sort of inconsistent side. But if they turn up, they can win. No coincidence, Angus Crichton grabbed his first try for the year. And I think everybody wants to just talk about what happened after the game, though. Oh, hasn't that hit the press? Jonathan Thurston and Spencer Lanu.
Yeah.
It's big news over here. Spencer just called Jonathan a nice name, and then Jonathan didn't like it. So move on. But let's not take let's not take the gloss off this Roosters win. And once again, it was funny. I was talking to Matty Elliott yesterday at the ground, and he said, if you're leading the NRL tipping comp, you know nothing about the game.
Yes. It is a real topsy-turvy season, this one, for sure. So we've got two games today. Storm $1.16, Warriors $5.25. That's a sellout. And the Knights $1.72, Western Tigers $2.12. Tell us about these two.
Yeah, well, the Storm have a near-perfect record against the Warriors, don't they? You know, it goes back a long, long way. But last year, they were both close games. So it's one of those ones. But I tell you what, they should have a big crowd today, shouldn't they, boys? No AFL in Melbourne. And they do take on, as we say, the Warriors. So they were good last week, weren't they, the Storm? Oh. And the Warriors coming off the bye, very, very hard to tip against the Storm. So, yeah, I think they'll continue their good work. And the last game, McDonald's-Jones, well, I tell you what, nights on a Sunday afternoon are normally specials, but they've got some casualties. That's the big thing. Cogger, Elliott, Hedrington, Safidi, Schiller, all unavailable. And the big one for me, Jerome Luai comes back for the Tigers. So, yeah, I think I'm going to go to Tigers in that one. A little bit of a shock. So, might go the Storm 13 plus, Tigers 1 to 12. We will get for that $5.34. And for our Thursday, well, I'm going to throw him in as well, but our Thursday listeners, we need Katoa. Eliesa Katoa to score to clinch the try-scoring multi for the Thursday, boys. So, Katoa into Jerome Buller. Jerome Buller. The fullback, Jareem Buller, of course. $5.43. So, a couple of $5 plays today.
Will Luai get over the line today, Sul?
I think, mate, I tell you what, he's not a try scorer as much, Dave. He's not sort of that try scorer. So he likes to set up his outside men. We know he can, so that might be a little play. I'm not sure what price he was, but I'll go Buller. I'll go the fullback because he does score tries against the Knights.
Love it. Buller and Katoa. Get over the line, boys, at $5.43 waiting for us if that can happen. Sol, great catching up with you this morning. It's been a pleasure having you back in the West. Look forward to us having you again very, very soon. Enjoy the remainder of your weekend, mate.
Yeah, stay safe. Thanks, Dave. Thanks, Marty. Yep, Origin, we're there.
All the best. See you, Sol. There he goes, James Sully Sullivan. Masters at the moment, Rory McIlroy. He's 12 under and leads by 4 from the Canadian Connors DeChambeau. They're both 8 under.
Put a gap
Rose and the Irishman Lowry are 7 under.
Jason Day was going okay from the Aussies.
He's 5 under at the moment, and that is through 18. So McIlroy is through 16 at the moment.
Jeez, he's really put a gap on things.
He certainly has.
Sitting handy, and that's outstanding.
And we've got to catch up with Simon Hill now. We need to get rolling and talk to him. Gee, what a big round of EPL it's been. And also those goals keep coming in the A-League. My goodness, the glory. Stop it. 4 1ers.
Well, that's
against Adelaide.
That's a turn up for the books, Marty. You would have got some nice odds about that.
My goodness me.
It's been a fair old wait, it must be said. They've been really battling of late, so nice to see a little bit of respectability about their performance there, given how tough it's been for Glory fans of late.
How good's Via Sistina?
Oh, my God, she's freaky good. And when he sets her, I don't reckon she'd come back the same horse this prep, to be honest. Not to the level she was anyway around Cox Plate time last year, but when the big races are on, he just knows the buttons to push, and she was absolutely spectacular.
Next level. This man will be very, very happy. Simon Hill, Manchester City 5, Crystal Palace 2. Very good morning, Simon.
Morning, guys. Yes, that sounds like a thumping win, doesn't it? But it was anything but, I can tell you. City given an almighty scare last night. I was driving back from Newcastle, getting regular score updates on my phone, which was rather distracting. But Crystal Palace 2-0 up after 21 minutes. Eberici, Eze and Chris Richards. And then they had a third goal ruled out marginally by VAR for an offside. And I thought, it's going to be one of those days. But, they seem to find another level after that. City, Kevin De Bruyne's free kick got them back in it. Omar Marmoush made it 2-2 at half-time. Within a minute of the restart, Mateo Kovacic had driven in De Bruyne's assist. The Belgian really rolling back the years, by the way, last night with a really good performance. And then 2 of the youngsters, James McAtee, had missed 3 big chances, and Nico O'Reilly's deflected efforts gave us that final scoreline, which looks rather comfortable, as I say, but wasn't quite the entire story. Good game. These two could meet again in the FA Cup final in May. They're both in the semis. But an important 3 points that for City, who are in fourth now ahead of Chelsea, putting the pressure back on them in that battle for the Champions League spots.
Simon, a massive props for Kevin De Bruyne coming out post-game, particularly from the gaffer. He's been a wonderful campaigner and lots of people shouting him out there last night and really giving him the pats on the back for another tremendous performance and what a great job he's done there at City.
Yeah, look, he's been one of our best ever players, and I'm pretty sure there'll be a statue going up to join Aguero and company and Silva and one or two others once he leaves at the end of the season. The time comes for all players, of course, to part company with clubs, but I mean, his contribution has been huge, and it'd be nice for him to go out with an FA Cup win and City finishing top four, but I would say that, wouldn't I?
Of course you would. Brighton and Leicester 2-2. Notts Forest at home losing to Everton 1-0.
Yeah.
What about that?
Yeah, Forest are having a real wobble and exactly at the wrong time of the season as well. That's back-to-back defeats. They lost to Aston Villa, of course, last time out. This one was a tight game. Everton with another really good defensive display. David Moyes has got them very well organised. They repelled everything and managed to steal it in the 94th minute with a breakaway goal, Abdoulaye Doucouré, which essentially makes Everton safe. I think they were anyway, to be fair. But yeah, Forest are now only 3 points ahead of Man City in fourth, and there's a clutch of clubs just behind them. So it's going to be a tense finale. They've got Spurs away next, and then the Cup semi-final. And as we know, the games against Spurs anything can happen basically against Tottenham. The other game you mentioned, Brighton 2, Leicester 2. Finally, some signs of life for Leicester, who twice fought back from being a goal down to earn a point. It's probably not going to be enough to save them from relegation. They're still 14 points adrift of safety with only 6 games to go, but at least it ended an 8-game losing sequence. A couple for João Pedro for Brighton, but Steffi Mavadivi's first equaliser was Leicester's first Premier League goal, would you believe, since the 26th of January, which is extraordinary, really. They haven't even scored, let alone got points on the board. And Caleb Akoli then, with a diving header, getting Leicester a share of the spoils. Brighton are faltering, really. They look to be in the running for the European spots a few weeks ago, but they're now 6 without a win and drifting away from those European places.
Simon, Aston Villa waited until late to get the job done against Southampton, but did it convincingly. 3-0 winners, and poor old Southampton headed on the drop down. It's been a tough old season for them.
Yeah, it has. And they still need 2 points to overhaul Derby County's worst ever points return of 11 in the Premier League, which was set many years ago. So it really has been a season of struggle. Of course, they parted company with another manager, the revolving door at St Mary's. Ivan Juric left last week after relegation was confirmed. So this was the expected result. So Villa had to work for it. All 3 substitutes getting on the board: Ollie Watkins, Doniel Marlin, and John McGinn, after Aaron Ramsdale had initially saved one of 2 Marco Asensio penalties. Asensio missing them both, by the way. Big win for Villa. They've sometimes struggled on the back of big European weeks. Of course, they played Paris Saint-Germain in the quarterfinal of the Champions League during the week, lost 3-1. They've got the second leg to come of that this week. But that's 5 wins in 6 Premier League games now for Villa, who are up to 5th, just a point behind Man City in 4th. And they are very much in the running for the Champions League again next season.
Brentford come from 1 goal down to grab a share of the points against Arsenal away.
Yeah, that's a point that means that Brentford are mathematically safe. It's going to be a 4th season of Premier League football guaranteed for Thomas Frank and his team, which is no small achievement, given that Brentford are not exactly the biggest club in the Premier League. The likes of the Bees and Bournemouth really are flying the flag for the smaller clubs. More disappointment really for Arsenal, whose season is now going to be defined by the Champions League. They go to Real Madrid this week, defending a 3-0 lead at the Bernabeu in the quarterfinals of the Champions League. And this was really a case of before the Lord Mayor's show. It was a poor game, really. Thomas Partey's goal on 61 minutes for Arsenal cancelled out by Johan Wissa with a quarter of an hour to play. That leaves the Gunners 10 points behind Liverpool at the top, only 6 games to play. They're not going to win the Premier League. And they were a bit disjointed in this game. Mikel Arteta made quite a few changes with that quarter-final of the Champions League in mind. I think the closest they came to winning it, Kieran Tierney having one ruled out by VAR, but only 3 shots on target during the 90 minutes for Arsenal, I think, tells its own story.
Simon, there's 4 games remaining this evening. I'll go through the markets and then throw to you for your thoughts on each game. So Chelsea $1.24,
okay.
the draw $6.50, Ipswich Town $10.50, Liverpool $1.26, hot favourites, the draw $6.10, West Ham at $10.50, Wolves Tottenham the closest from a betting perspective, $2.20 for Wolves, the draw $3.55. Spurs at $3.10 and the late game, Newcastle United $1.62, the draw $4.10 and Man U at $5.20. How do you see these 4 games unfolding?
Yeah, I think they've got the numbers right, to be honest, with the exception, as you rightly pointed out, of that Wolves-Tottenham game. That could easily go either way. Again, probably the reason for the home favouritism is not just Spurs' inconsistency, but the fact that they too have got European commitments to come later on this week. They're going to Eintracht Frankfurt after the 1-1 draw at White Hart Lane in the first leg. And obviously their focus is largely going to be on that. Will Ange Postecoglou make changes and rest some players? I would think he'd be daft not to be honest. And their away record, Tottenham, in the Premier League is poor. Only Southampton and Leicester have taken fewer points on the road. Wolves have taken 23 points since Vitor Pereira took over. That's more than the bottom 3 clubs combined. That's why they're almost safe. So I'd say it's probably going to be a home win for Wolves, but there's always that question mark with Tottenham because on their day, they can be brilliant, but when they're bad, they're very, very bad. So, yeah, I'm sticking with the bookies. In the other 3 games, Chelsea should be too strong for Ipswich. Again, they should be motivated by the fact that both Manchester City and Aston Villa won overnight. Chelsea have dropped down in the table, but there's only a couple of points separating 4 clubs, really. Ipswich did beat Chelsea 2-0 at Portman Road earlier this season, but away from home, I think it'll be a different story. Chelsea to win that one for me. Liverpool should take another step towards a 21st league title, even though they only lost their 2nd league game of the season last time out to Fulham. Here's a good stat for you. West Ham have won 1 of their last 57 trips to Anfield.
Wow.
So even given Liverpool's little wobble of late, I think they'll be too strong. The other game, yeah, maybe a slight question mark against this one. Newcastle on a good run at the moment, but Manchester United are capable of going to St James's Park and taking something. But once again, United have got European commitments. They're 2-2 with Lyon after the first leg of the Europa League quarter-final. They've got the second leg to come at Old Trafford this week. So will they rest a couple of players and make that their focus? I think probably they will, which tips the balance in Newcastle's favour.
A-League, Simon, goals galore again, but let's start off with Perth Glory 4, Adelaide 1. What has happened to Adelaide, or the continuation of it, but the mighty Perth Glory 4-1?
Yeah, biggest and best win of the season so far for Glory. That was a real turn-up for the books, it has to be said, even given the problems that Adelaide are on a terrible run at the moment. And, of course, they announced during the week that Carl Viet, their manager, is going to be leaving at season's end. I tend to feel he's been a little bit hard done by. Maybe this was the inevitable conclusion of that troublesome week. But take nothing away from Glory. It's a great win for them, give them a lot of confidence. Adam Taggart, Trent Ostler with 2 goals in the opening 20 minutes. Ben Falami pulling one back, and then a double from Jalen Pearman, who's been a real shining light in this season of struggle for Glory. Lifts David Strilic's team off the foot of the ladder. But as for Adelaide, well, you look at the goals against column, 50 goals conceded. And maybe that's one reason why Carl Viet is not going to be there next season.
Simon, just the one game today from the A-League. We get to see Western Sydney Wanderers 2.20, the draw at $3.95, and Western United at $2.70. Intriguing clash. Who do you think will get the points?
I fancy Western today. Western United, I should say, the suffix, because they're both Westerns. But
having a dollar each way.
Even though the Wanderers on a terrific run at the moment, they're 8 matches unbeaten, which is their best in a decade. But Western United are on a roll at the moment. 5 consecutive wins, which is a club record. And they've got a bit of added motivation, of course, because Auckland could only draw against Sydney FC, another cracking game at Allianz yesterday, that one ending 2-2. So Western can pull that gap at the top in the race for the Premiership back to 3 points. And on the final weekend of the season, Western United host Auckland at Ironbark Fields. So if they can get and stay within 3 points of Auckland up until the final weekend of the season, we could have a Premiership decider. They've got the best away record in the league, 7 wins, 2 draws, 2 losses. They can score goals for fun. So can the Wanderers, in fairness. So it should be a cracking game. But I just feel Western might have a little bit too much for the Wanderers today.
Thank you, Simon. We love chatting every Sunday. There he is, Simon Hill, and he brings us up to date with everything regarding the World Game.
Blah, blah, blah. Let Marty Young and David Shortte do all the talking on the Aftermath. Sunday morning at its best on Tab Radio Racing and Sport.
Yeah, throwing Chris Nelson to that mix. A very good morning.
Good morning, Marty. Good morning, Shorty.
G'day, Chris. Great to have you on the program. What a stunning day of racing it was there yesterday at Randwick. We got to see all of the stars strutting their stuff. We'll get straight into it because there's a lot of races to work through. We'll kick things off. Race number 4, it was the Star Percy Sykes Stakes for Group 2 for the 2-year-olds over the 1,200 metres, and the Blue Army getting the cash here. Tempted with J Mac aboard, defeating Savvy Halley and Within the Law.
Isn't she an absolute ripper, Tempted? I was just thinking this morning, is she the best 2-year-old in the country? I don't know if there's too many others that have done what she's done. I mean, she bolted in the Riesling. She was unlucky not to win the Slipper. She was unlucky in a Blue Diamond. She's now won this, and she was dominant here. And she sat 3 wide basically the whole trip. She sat 4 lengths off them, and she was still strong to the line, and she ran clear to win by, almost 2 lengths, just over a length and a half. She'll go for a break now. She's been up a while. I think she's had 6 starts. And as I said, she's been to Melbourne. I can't wait to see her in the spring. She'll get out over those mile trips and whatever in Caulfield, 1,000 guineas, etc. And she's going to be really one to follow. So I do think she's the best 2-year-old in the country. So there you go. Within the Law ran on well. Inkaruna, get that right. I thought had every possible, no excuses for mine. And Savvy Halley was quite good, but all honours with the winner, as I said, who sat wide. If she had had a softer run, she would have won by further, guys.
Yeah, agree with you there, Chris. I do like Savvy Halley. She's been tough as well. She obviously was going to get a bit more ground than yesterday as well. Hey, let's go to the Australian Oaks. Here's the replay.
By a length and a half to Ella Hazel, Yu Wang. Now Treasure the Moment in the white cap is 4 out and 5 outers like a Lucy, making a good strong run into the straight now. Sun and Sand shows the way by a length or so on Yu Wang. Treasure the Moment like a Lucy. Ella Hazel is still there. 2:50 to go. Sun and Sand and Yu Wang. Treasure the Moment and like a Lucy. They're both starting to knuckle down now. In the centre, Treasure the Moment. She's really lifting. Sun and Sand in front, but Treasure the Moment captures the moment. Another big win, claiming the Oaks double.
Don't know what it is about these superstar horses, but they just find a way to win, don't they?
They do, and she wasn't entitled to win that race yesterday. They ran home in, 33.93 over 2,400 metres. Sun and Sand leading, Yu Wang being up there. So the leaders had every possible chance. She had to dig really deep, and now she brings up that Oaks double of the VRC Oaks and the ATC Oaks. So that was an excellent performance to get home over the top. Like a Lucy sat behind her in the run. Nothing wrong with Like a Lucy's run, but the sprint home just worked against her. I mean, she was less than a length off Treasure the Moment when they hit the line. Interesting in the stewards report, Damien Lane, excessive whip use, copped a $10,000 fine and a 2-week suspension, guys. But he could have a holiday, couldn't he?
The feet could be up on the dashboard and he could go and spend a little bit of that money that he's won there yesterday, I would suggest there, Chris. And if you've got big-time jockeys aboard for big-time races and you at the end of the race have to be penalising them for trying too hard. I'd much prefer that than the alternative, it must be said. Well done, though, and well done to Matt Laurie. What a run he's having with his team at the moment. Absolutely flying. This is some training performance. 8 straight. She just continues to roll up and deliver on the big stage. This has been a great training performance, and what a really tough and durable filly she must be to be able to cop all of the racing and work that she's copped to put together this 8-2 record from 10 starts. She's a very special filly and deserves all the kudos heading her way. Moving on now to the next race on the program on what was just a huge day of racing, the Group 1 Sydney Cup over the 2 miles. Geez, this was a popular win on the day. They were going absolutely bananas, and who would have thought that man to the fore once again, Björn Baker. We could be seeing more of him here locally in the next couple of weeks, bringing that party to town. But this was a big win from Arapahoe. Runner-up, Waltham, and the passing of local legend Peter Waltham yesterday. How fitting to see this horse into
He passed yesterday.
Yeah, Macca made that the comments there yesterday out there trackside at Ascot. I heard that, and he's been a legend in the local WA media scene for a long time. So quite fitting that we would see a horse named Waltham in the placings at Group 1 level. He was a Group 1 performer himself, Peter Waltham, and in third, River of Stars. It was a race where a few of the runners that went in with booms walked out of the race without those booms on them.
Yeah, and LL Cance was certainly the one. Just raced completely flat yesterday. The 7-day backup must have worked against, gone for a break. But you mentioned Waltham there, and you'd have to say, looking at the replay again this morning, he might have been stiff. He was only really in the clear at 120 metres from the line, and he's made up some good ground on Arapahoe, who pinched it, obviously, for Rachel King. And as you say, Shorty, every time there's a big celebration after a race in Sydney, you usually find Bjorn Baker in the middle of it somewhere, and there he was again, having an absolute blast. And I'm sure he'll tear up Perth when he gets there, as he usually does. But, yeah, great ride, had the right spot, got the gap in the straight, shot away, and Waltham, I thought, was unlucky. May not have won, but would have finished definitely closer. And River of Stars, the ex-French mare, she improved nicely off her Tancred run, I thought.
How about the pick 4, $192,000, if you don't mind? Wowee.
None of us got it. We wouldn't be on the air this morning if we did.
we would be making too much sense. Let's go to the Queen Elizabeth Stakes. Here she is. She's a star.
Who takes the lead. Then Tom Kidden, Debayona's winding up on the outside from Light Infantryman. And now Via Sistina. She's looking for the runs behind them. She'll have to go back to the inside. Lindemann takes the lead to the 200. But here comes Via Sistina. She's slicing through the pack. Debayona and Cheowolf down the outside. But Via Sistina takes the lead inside the 100. She's drawn clear from Debayona and Tom Kidden. And Via Sistina equals the record of the Great Winks with 7 Group 1s in a season. What an emphatic victory there.
Unbelievable. Simply stunning there yesterday. J-Mac back to the inside aboard Via Sistina. Also worth noting, do by honour, my goodness, William Haggis, the strike rate with the horses that he has brought to Australia. And to be fair, a lot of them have a hit and run. They've had 1, 2 or maybe sometimes 3 runs, but they almost never miss. It was an excellent run in defeat. And Tom Kitten, really nice prep for Tommy since he's had the straighten up there, losing a couple of his best friends. He has been a very nice horse. Very nice race.
Yeah, and look, we talk about, J-Mac getting all the good rides, and you've only got to jump on them and steer them. They basically win for themselves, but not the case. I mean, Via Sistina here, and we'll get to Fangirl in a minute, but Via Sistina, she was in a very awkward spot there on the fence, buried away, and he just had to wait. He got his gaps, and he forced his way through, and when she picked up, at about the 250, you could see she was just starting to hit her straps, and she just put them away and raced away. You knew she was going to be primed for yesterday, and she was right at her peak. So great win, great ride. As you say, Shorty, Jabai on her sat 3 wide, no cover all the way. Back to 2,000 metres was an exceptional effort. Nothing else out of the race, really. Tommy, yeah, he's been really good. Been a really good prep for him.
Yeah, she almost broke the track record as well, only 0.11 outside of the track record.
Marty, just a quick one. I'm a big fan of the horse Cheowolf, but I think it's fair to say he hasn't quite come back to the level that he was last preparation this time around. Am I being unfair, Chris?
No, he did have that setback too, sure, you remember?
Yeah.
Where he missed a week and then he went back in distance 100 metres. So I don't think that's helped him. But he's still got away with a good race a couple of weeks ago. So, yeah, you're probably right there, but I don't think that setback would have set back would have helped it all.
Also got to balance it, though, David and Chris, with the fact that he's now up against the very, very best. That's a Cox Platefield, isn't it?
Oh, it was outstanding.
Sustain, Dubai on a Tom Kitt and Chow Wolf. Russian Park's form is enormous if you go back and have a look at it.
Oh, the Japanese visitors were elite. Light infantry man coming off a big win last time out in the Australian Cup. Yeah, I don't know. Like Joe Pride for a long time was saying, I haven't hit the ceiling. Yeah. I don't know where the ceiling is with this fella. I think at the end of this prep, if this is as good as it gets, then he's maybe got a little bit defined to be up to that real top level. I don't know. And I hope I'm wrong, because I do love the horse, but I just thought he may have sort of been a little closer to a couple of the top end.
It's a 50-50. I get what Chris is saying, and I think there's truth in that as well. So maybe it's spell, come back, let's make a judgment call in the spring.
And some horses, quite simply, are just better horses in spring.
Yep.
Mate, I'm hoping he's one of those.
Fangirl, well, she avoided Via Sistina and got a Group 1 in the Queen of the Turf. And news coming out of Miele's Jules been retired.
Yes, I did pick that up this morning as well. Great ride once again, Fangirl. She was back second last. He had to hook back near the inside, come through. Outstanding ride from J-Mac. Steffi Magnetica, backing up from the big win last week. She was good. The Tissue back in trip was also good. So they streeted the rest. There was 0.87 between those three. And then another, 3 lengths, just under 3 lengths back to the 0. They were the class acts in the race. And Fangirl, well, she just keeps on delivering, doesn't she? She is a ripper.
Indeed. And in the last, it looked like the World Back commemorative was home for the team money. And then all of a sudden, Infancy with Jay Collette aboard spoiled the party. Lady Laguna was back in third.
I'm still tearing up here, guys. As you would have remembered, I was all over commemorative a couple of weeks ago, said it was outstanding in the Galaxy. Behind Private Harry, and I couldn't wait till next time. Well, next time was yesterday. J-Mac, a victim of the gate, 11 of 11, 3 and 4 wide, no cover, 5 wide on the home turn. Still looked as though she was going to win, but unfortunately Infancy had the last crack and she was a sitting shot late. So commemorative, hopefully we might see her up here. You never know in Queensland. But, yeah, I'm sticking with her wherever she goes because she's racing very, very well. It was a bit stiff yesterday.
Doomben, the meeting there yesterday called off after just 4 races, Chris, which, oh my goodness, I can't believe the weather patterns that you people are having to deal with up there. Racing's really struggling to keep rolling. This afternoon, sunny coast, anything there for the punters?
Well, we're on the poly track. We had a change last night, so the grass is gone, and we're on the poly today. There is one in the first, but no, here we go. I was waiting for the prices to come up for Darn Hot Lady, and they finally have, and she's about $1.30. So I don't think I'll tip her.
No.
But no, we have an average meeting on the poly track, and we'll probably get a bit more rain today. It just will not stop up here, unfortunately.
Hey, Chris, I've got to let you in on this one. Mario, go Cats. He sent this one in. He says, morning, lads. The Eagles performed a miracle yesterday. My relative, who's been bedridden at the moment, got up, walked over to the TV and turned it off. Hallelujah.
Oh, dear.
Very good, Mario.
Oh, it's a beauty, Mario. You're setting the standards. Well done, Chris. We'll
Thanks,
listen in on
guys.
Wednesday.
Have a great day.
You're listening to the Sunday Aftermath on Tab Radio Racing and Sports.
Yes, Racetrack Ralphy from racetrackralphy.com. A very good morning.
Good morning, boys. Delighted to talk horse racing.
Yes,
indeed.
The old Bendigo meeting. It's always one of the best, isn't it?
Absolutely, much better than what was on TV on Saturday night. The track played superb, and there was a bit of a theme. Well, there was 2 themes going into the meeting. One was at Flemington, which was no one's fault a couple of weeks back. The straight races, you needed to be hard to fence, so there was going to be some horses that would improve from being in the middle. But the strongest theme, and we'll get to a few, was Moonee Valley 3 weeks ago was, so I call it dirty form, where you just couldn't trust horses that had been winning, but also more to the point, you could forgive horses that were in the wrong spot. And gee, it's been a theme, and some big odds winners have come through it.
Big style. Let's kick things off where one of those longer odds winners arrived. First time for a long time through Irish Eyes. But I tell you what, Jay Allen, 3 votes, got there and just rated the pants off this particular galloper, and the rest never really looked like getting it. Steel Run second, Inevitable Award third. But I guess the takeaway from the race was Johnny Allen Deluxe up front.
Yeah, absolutely. That's always a concern in a small field. What's going to happen with the map? They went forward after barrier trial from that Moonee Valley meeting. I like the Shinners Prestige. Don't know what happened to it because it was outside through Irish eyes, but it was just terrible on the day. But yeah, we always knew if he could return to his best, it'd be too good for him. That was a query, but obviously the barrier trial sharpened him up. I'll tell you what, though, he's going to win some jumps racing if he can stay on his feet with that talent.
Yep, race 2, the 2-year-olds, Brazen Bow, 2-year-old Kiliana. Just, you can sit 3 wide off that shooter and at Bendigo, can't you? And was too good for him. Good win, Michael D and Team Hayes.
Yeah, spot on. I'll tell you what, though, I reckon there's maybe Flemington Anzac Day, 1400 there, Salty Pearl.
Yeah.
That's also what I follow.
Yeah, great.
I know it's easy to pick a flash home horse, but
yep.
I've actually got Vince Guardi's data through, and it was a really big mid-race. It's going to improve again, so that could be its race in a fortnight's time.
All right, so jot down Salty Pearl for next time out. Salty Pearl on to race number 3. Heavenly Eagle arriving. There was quite good money for this horse late in the piece. I think it was around 50s, and then by the time they jumped, it was around $26. Luke Cartwright, the 3-kilo claimer aboard, was a nice performance. Got there the last hop, coming home strong.
Yeah, I always say I'll find the Tasmanian Target before I find the Graham Big stable. I reckon I'll find the Loch Ness Monster before I find
Stephen Brown.
It was just too good. And I tweeted that out, and Stephen Brown got back to me. He said, that's exactly how I like it. So hat tip there. Yeah, you're right. And sometimes those smart stables, the smaller ones, you keep an eye on the market when there's a little bit of market support there.
Yep.
This horse has got a little bit of talent. It was benchmark 70, bit of a blanket finish, and there'll be a few winners though from it. The figures are actually okay.
Always like this She Light's always shown a little bit of ability and got away with it out in front and bolted in at good odds. Yeah,
absolutely. And this horse, I think its last mile run was the Caulfield Guineas, and that was coming off a strong 1400 that race. So it was actually in the market, and it really elevated. And this was a tale of 2 jockeys, and I'll just be factual. John McNeil was drawn next to Jordan Childs, went back, and his stats in the city at the moment are pretty poor, and Jordan Childs are amazing. So that's at the moment one jockey's in form and one jockey's out of form. Liberami just had no hope position in running, and She Light returned some of his A-game performances, and Bendigo played so well that you weren't penalised if you're good enough up front.
On to race number 5. This is for the 3-year-olds over the 1,100 metres. Manolo Bling, heavily commissioned late. Luke Cartwright aboard. $2.90. Let's Face the Music runner-up. Sweethearted got a long way back, made up some late ground in third. Fly was in 4th spot, but Manolo Bling, nice win.
Yeah, I really liked what this filly did on debut at Caulfield, and it was strong up front, even though it was on a wet ground in the middle of winter. And they sort of just kept chipping away with her and won a Cup Day race with her, but this time having a good break, good trial leading in. If you saw that market support, you were going to be pretty keen on it. Sweethearted added to that by just being a bit sticky away. I'd be very confident Sweethearted will be winning next start up to 1,200, but Manolo Bling should be in for a good prep too.
Race 6 was over the 1,100 metres, bunch finish. It was Title Fighter, Clayton Douglas and Jamie Mott prevailing.
Yeah, so Tatsu Markey was truckloaded, and wow, the figures have come through. This is a seriously fast race over that first sort of 700 metres there. So that left the leaders vulnerable late. Port Albert might improve off this too. It had trialled well. I wouldn't drop off Tatsumaki particularly. I dare say they'll say, well, maybe not the Goodwood for him, and just keep him to the short courses because he's got serious speed, and that was only just his second start after such a long time off. Title Fighter came from that Moonee Valley track, and speaking of informed jockeys, Jamie Mott's just absolutely informed. For Pseudo with the blinkers on, for Gavin Bedgood, first prep for him, I think they'll find a race for it as well.
Zalotti's getting the cash in a race number 7 on the program. This was pretty popular with the punters yesterday. Went on for a nice victory with Geordie Childs in the saddle.
Yeah, now, its Sandown win looked good. There wasn't a lot in the figures, but it didn't need to produce a lot. And I made sure I wrote. I said on figures, no, but on Graham Begg and how it closed, just watch what the market does. And when the market was on it, there was no other horse you wanted to be on, though. I would say, though, Love Zoo. Now, it's shown a little bit of last prep. 2 sort of not much runs. It was one that came through in that Flemington straight race that I told you about, and now at 1,400, I reckon it's ready as well. So I wouldn't be surprised if Slotties goes to SA and Love Zoo stays here and wins the city race. I
heard him post-race. He was that impressed with the win. I think he might even be tossing up with Brisbane instead of South Australia. So he's got to work out the options. He's talking Hawkesbury on the way to Brisbane, I think. That was the last thing I heard.
And with that stable, just stick with him.
Just follow him wherever he goes. He looked up and about with that hat on yesterday, didn't he, the Penguin? Oh, yeah.
Too good.
Bendigo Guineas, it was Wonder Boy. And Jerome Hunter, good to see him. And Jamie Mott, as you mentioned, by gee, him and a couple of other jocks up there are just flying at the moment in Melbourne.
Yeah, you can have a lot of confidence with him. And this was a case of just position and running was everything. Runa Royale, Fettingham, I turned the computer upside down, tried to work out why it was in the market. The most overrated horse in Victoria. That made it 1 win from 15 starts there yesterday. Had the softest lead possible. But Jamie Mott, thinking jockey, informed jockey, just put Wonder Boy right on the speed. And coming from reasonable races in Rose Hill and then also at Flemington where he was luckless, he was just always going to be too good under that circumstance. It was. Calcalo switched on with the blinkers, but pretty basic sort of figures have come through from this.
And speaking of Jamie Mott, to the fore once again in the Golden Mile aboard Regal Zeus, defeating Smokin' Princess and Aaron Bay.
Yeah, and he ended up being terrific odds, God bless him. So he was a horse who's got great tenacity. I suppose the market was going to let you on 1,200 to 1,600. He got such a soft lead at Caulfield that the figures came through. But I thought second start at 1,200, he was never going to produce much of a sprint. He was just in the right spot, whereas at a mile, he had really good figures. And here it's really been shown up. They've gone quickly. And he's just hung on from Smokin' Princess. There's no improvement from Smokin' Princess to come this prep, obviously. And both Aaron Bay and Pounding, they're two that came from that Moonee Valley meeting. And we know that they're good old horses and they'll probably find a win in store coming up ahead.
And in the last, it was Marble 9, Benny Allen aboard 14 Corsons defeating Sunshine in My Pocket. Pivot City was very popular. A lot of people tipping out Pivot City yesterday. It wasn't up to the task.
No, I thought its price was a bit insane, and it was obviously a chance. But I think he's best at 1,200. Particularly, the figures have come through that they've absolutely flown here. Georgie Get Mad produced the speed, so good on Marble 9 for being able to hang on. Sunshine in My Pocket, though, put the big circle around that, boys. It's back on track. Its Sandown win was huge, and it's definitely a horse to follow. And speaking of that, from that stable, Sunshine in My Pocket, earlier in the day, Salty Pearl, and let's throw in Sweethearted and Lover Zoo as the other two to really follow going forward.
Oh, how about Gather Round? Enjoying it?
Look, Gather Round's fantastic. Answer me this. If you check at Netflix at halftime, is that like leaving early?
As long as there's a good program on, Ralphy.
You missed your best quarter, the third quarter. You come alive in the third.
There's a seat for you next Saturday, Shorty, if you're coming over.
You're listening to the Sunday Aftermath on Tab Radio Racing and Sport. On the Aftermath, it's time to introduce the 1985 Brownlow medalist from the Footscray Football Club, Brad Hardie. Introducing the boy from Hilton, the AFL guru, Brad Hardie.
Good morning, Bradley.
Morning, Marty. Morning, Shorty. What about me, Shannon Noel? I got a $17 one last week, so where's my one? Did I beat Snoz?
No, Snoz had you $32.
Oh,
well done, Snoz.
Tell you what, I'd be happy. Pretty happy with either, to be fair, Bradley. They're both nice results. Mind you, a week's a long time in punting, as they say in the classics.
Oh, yeah, tell me about yesterday. Anyway, but, how's Sully? Sully's in town, wasn't he?
No, he's gone. Gone home. We sent him home last night, red eye.
Oh, good on him. Good on him. How did that go yesterday? I must admit, I had that much going on. I didn't really see how those games went, those rugby games yesterday. The double-header down at Optus. Did they get 30,000?
Yes, they did. A little over, about 31,000. And now, Brad, it's interesting because some people are saying, only 31,000. Rugby league and AFL are different. Like they a big crowd over in Sydney for in front of one of their bigger clubs is often between 15 and 20,000. So I don't think it's a terrible result getting 30,000 to those two games there yesterday.
No. Look, I think it's we know that the Perth Bears have run into a bit of a what would you call it? T-junction. Yeah. So that's interesting. But yes, you say we love an event. I mean, if it was the Bledisloe Cup, the State of Origin, mate, they'll pack the joint out. But unfortunately, yes, that's pretty good. The weather's been good, I know, and there's footies on in Gather Round, and I don't think too many people have left their side of their TVs, have they, Marty, with Gather Round? It's been our outrageous success this time around. Numbers to the grounds, and, the games have been okay. By and large. So, I hear you, Shorty. I hear you. It'll be interesting. interesting to see how we go, whether Roger can open up the purse strings, because Push Along Pete wants a bit more money.
Yeah, well, talking to Sully while he was over here, he's confident they'll get this deal back on track. So we'll see what happens in the near future. Before we get into our football, I just want to play this. This happened yesterday at the State Athletic Centre. One of the best 100-metre finishes you'll ever see or
Lewis,
hear.
Reasonable. Lane got a great start. Getty's out fast. O'Brien and Rizzo starting to pick up. Lewis picking up strongly. Rizzo just in front of Lewis. O'Brien's coming at them. Oh, boy! It's a triple dead heat, Nelly. O'Brien lunged late. Rizzo and Lewis. It is so...
Yeah, it was Lewis winning from O'Brien, who's this young sprinting star on the way up, running against the seniors, and Rizzo in there. Wait till you go and have a look at the photo that's doing the rounds. It is going to be a classic, iconic photo. Wow, it was a close finish.
And well done. It's great to have top-line athletics in Perth, which is fantastic. And, of course, there's a lot been made about Gout and whatever. I think Browning won the men's division, didn't he?
Yeah, here it is. Here's the men's 100.
Away, Kennedy, pretty good start. Browning got a good start, Aote as well. So Browning's with Kennedy at halfway, and then as a party, Browning just in front of Kennedy. Browning, Kennedy dipped. It's so close. Browning had him, and then Kennedy dips late.
Oh,
Bruce, how sharp is the man?
He's loving it. The Doyen. It was Kennedy just missing, but he'll run the 200s today v Gout. So that'll get underway about 12 o'clock, the first of the heats.
And Gout wind assisted, but sub 10 if you don't mind, punters. How much upside's this boy got?
Well, it's on today.
I
just hope Kennedy is able to recover from that 100. Because Gout ran his on the Friday, and if they can mirror that finish that they had in Melbourne, it'll be game on. Crowd will go crazy.
Now, what about Bruce? He's a beauty, isn't he? He just gets excited about parking his car in a tight car park these days. He's a beauty. Love him.
Oh, well, I think Gout might be able to take over from Cyril for Bruce.
He has.
He's taking the baton. He's taking the
baton.
Just quickly, guys, how good's this, in all seriousness, Marty, you've been a big fan and a lover and an investor in Western Australian and Australian athletics for a long period of time now. This batch of athletes that we have coming through, generally it's been all about, when the Olympics are on, it's all about the swimming pool for the Aussies. Finally, in my lifetime, I can't actually wait for the next Olympics, because come track and field time, we're actually going to be right there in the mix and have some legitimate contenders by the looks of things.
100%. And like a guy like Wayne Barber, who he's been track and field all his life, national champion, shot put, etc. He texted me yesterday and said that was the best day track and field meet he's ever been to, and he's been to them all around the world. That's how good it was yesterday.
Magnificent.
And one of the boys from Curtin texted back and said it's not over yet. Tomorrow's the icing on the cake, so it should be fantastic there today. Now let's get the Rusty Gates, Marty, Shorty, Brad. During the week on the Sports Daily, there will inevitably be an assistant coach or spokesperson for the Eagles come on, and they will say that although they were defeated by 71 points, there were some positives to come out of the game. I think the only positive I took out of the game was when they won the toss. It's time that West Coast need to say they are in a rebuilding phase and let their wealthy members who spend their money on sponsorship and demand success, that it may take time before the Eagles can get back to their halcyon days. That is Rusty Gates.
I know he's spot on. Look, it was really disappointing yesterday, Shorty, to be honest. We know they made a few changes. Tim Kelly went out. Tom Cole went out. They had Harry Edwards come back in, which was a little bit... I felt for him the week before that when he did go out, Shorty, but he hadn't fixed everything in a week to come back in, Marty, if you know what I mean. Mm-hmm. So, that seemed a bit odd. Look, they had a little bit of a dip early. Oscar Allen brought in for about 15 minutes, and then he disappeared. Duggan can't run anymore, particularly with anybody who's got any leg speed whatsoever. Waterman was okay, a bit rusty after missing 3 weeks. Look, I love the work ethic of Jinby and Marek and the young boys wearing number 27 for same as Jacko these days. They're trying. They're really trying, but...
Gross.
It was a train wreck, particularly after half-time. Because Carlton, let's face it, haven't been good in the second half themselves, but they made them look unbelievable, particularly that last quarter when it really unravelled and, they got outscored and blew it right out. So, it's a tough one. And I think he's going to be in trouble longer term, McQualter, because you've got to have a top board behind you. You've got to have a top administration behind you. It's all over the shop, boys. It's all over the shop through the board, through the football department, led by Don Pike and Woosha. It's really, really tough. But what really annoys me the most is that there's a lot of chit-chat, Shorty, that a few of these boys want to get out now, the West Coast Eagle, because they're not enjoying their football. How could you not enjoy your football? Doing yoga on Monday, get your nails done on Tuesday, go and have a latte on Wednesday, go to the ATM on Thursday, hardly train from week to week and come out and not dish up that sort of crap. It's unbelievable, boys. Shocking.
There might be a couple of them that it might not be their choice at the end of the day. I think if I'm West Coast right now, I'm looking at where the list is at. I'm looking at who's got some currency, and I'm thinking we need to get ahead of the game, much the same as what Richmond did last year. We need to be sensible about understanding that we're in a hole right now that's not getting better anytime soon. We don't have a truckload of sort of mid to senior age players that have got their prime football years in front of them over the next 5 years. Let's get what we can for the top end talent that are happy to move, and let's get heavily invested in the next 2 or 3 drafts with 4 or 5 top 40 picks each year, and hope that we get the right ones. And in 5 years' time, we might well have, the guts of a really nice playing group that we can head forward with. But right now, that's just not there.
Shorty, I got on the attack of my own show, and I mentioned it to Marty. We were talking about it during the week. They've got to get aggressive now. And as you say, look, I know there's been a lot made of Oscar Allen, etc. I don't have any skin in the game. Push him off to Brisbane. Push him off probably to Hawthorn if you can, for the sake of it, because they stuffed up last year with that early pick, the future pick. They mucked around with Barras, and they end up with Hawthorn's future first rounds, who they'd swap with Carlton. And in the meantime, and now Hawthorn are going to be up the top, Carlton are going to be mid or down. They've just go to Hawthorn and say, well, you can have Oscar Allen, but we'll have your first futures now, which is Carlton's, and that's going to be handy. At least you're going to get 2 players in, and you might get a player out of the Hawthorn lineup as well to help fill in the hole. In the line of a Baker / Graham type. They're no world beaters, but they're having a go. I must admit they are having a go, those two, and they've come across. But yeah, they've got to try and turn a negative into a positive here, and I'm not sure they've got the smarts to do it, to be brutally honest.
Marty, someone like you were discussing it on Drive, someone like Warple, who with the day discussions was potentially there and not a major priority, could be the sort of player that could squeeze out. I mean, he's a good hard ball winner that'll go in and have a crack for you.
I listened to PR yesterday, Brad. I was driving around listening, and Carl, after the game, made some, I thought, pertinent points. One was he said, this is the worst midfield I've ever seen at the Eagles ever. 2, he went on about the training grounds being so hard and the amount of injuries they've had. That needs to be investigated. But I don't care what you do with all your draft picks. If they don't get the administration right, this will just continue on. So they've got to get that right first. I said that last week. Get that right first and then worry about the on-field. And they're not going to.
Like the Retrovision text line now, the phones lit up yesterday, Shorty, and all the punters were coming on and espousing their thoughts, etc. And I'm not going to announce them all because there's too many. But basically, what they were saying? Everything I've been saying for the last 3 years. And now all of a sudden everyone has worked it out. Yeah. There's a problem, Houston. Seriously, no, I was always wrong, Shorty. Not necessarily on air. From no one from the club would come out and say, but behind the scenes, and hey, what would he know, etc. We've been espousing this for 3.5 seasons, and no, it's okay. It's okay. We know what we're doing. Guess what? No, you don't. And it's come to a head now, and it's like Thelma and Louise. They've just left the cliff.
But they're not actually. They've got a fair way to go before they're at their very weakest point, in my opinion. They've still got some darker days ahead, no doubt about it. A couple of injuries, like yesterday. Surely Tim Kelly comes straight back in. You can say what you like about him, but he's one of the classiest players they have on their list. He's now had the week off to think about things, get back, freshen up, get yourself back in here and be the leader that you are paid to be for this football club. I'm a Tim Kelly fan. I think his best football is at a level that very few other players on that list can get anywhere near. So he just needs to turn up, roll his sleeves up, and be the man out on the ground that gets in and under and works hard for the football and sets the example.
Well, I think the thing is too, they've got to be creative, and I've been saying it for weeks now. They've got to turn him into a Newman, like at Carlton. You know? Yeah. So, you do play midfield, but you go with the best player from the opposition, and you work with him, and then you work off him. Tim's going one way at the moment, Shorty. That's his problem, and he'll get his 30, he did in Brisbane, and he'll get his 25s, but he won't hurt you. But what you can do, he can reinvent himself by going with the better player from the opposition. Yep. And we saw it yesterday. It would have been ideal for somebody to go with Walsh. That would have been nice. So he kicked 3 goals up to half-time. Walsh hasn't kicked 3 goals in his career. Yep. No. Let alone, so you've got to have accountability. So I agree with you, Shorty. I love the bloke. He's a South boy. He's a gentleman, all of that sort of stuff. But they've got to reinvent it. They've got to help him as well, because there's no help in there. That midfield is bereft of, Harley Reid, don't even start me on him. I know he's only a young boy, but he can't go more than about 3 minutes, and he's gone. Yep. He can't run through the midfield. People say, play him in the midfield. Why would you play him in the midfield when he's gassed in 3 minutes? He's not fit. So there's a lot to try and work out here. There's a myriad of problems for McQualter. I don't wish him any harm, but, good luck with that one, champ.
The other thing with Kelly, he can roll forward and kick goals. So you've got that up your sleeve. Get him forward and get him hurting the opposition, because they're struggling to kick a total at the moment. That's one of their biggest issues, is putting a score on the board. Not for many other sides, though. And one side that aren't struggling to kick a score, and, geez, they've impressed me, are the Gold Coast Football Club. Yesterday, I was watching this game up against North Melbourne. Gold Coast got off to a really good start. North came back at them and actually hit the front midway through the third quarter, and then Gold Coast dropped the hammer, found another gear, and next thing you know, you look at the final siren, they've piled on 141 points and defeated North Melbourne by 52 points. This midfield is absolutely humming right now. They've got forwards that are in good form, kicking goals. And the big boy up front, Ben King, he's been a bit of a slow burn, but right about now, you'd like to have a few shares in him, because he is about to really hit his straps. He's been impressive to kick off this season.
Oh, no doubt, no doubt. And we were on them last year, Shorty. We're on again them this year, not with the same amount, because the odds aren't as good. But, geez, they're playing really good. And they got challenged there for a while, and North Melbourne needed to challenge because they were pitiful last week against the Swans. And you expected a bit of a bite back, and they got that for a little while. They went match motors for a while. But no, they're going extremely well now. They've got the balance right. And 4 marks to Damien Hardwick. And I say that because he's been a true leader. We've touched on it before, Marty, where he walked in and said, Jared, which I'm talking about now, you're no longer captain. Neither are you, Took, even though you're going to get your nose out of joint. This bloke's going to be now captain. We're going to be harder. We're going to put more pressure on you from Monday to Friday at training. We're really going to give you a bit of an edge. Which we were looking for Essendon last year, and it lasted 5 minutes. This one looks like it's on track. It looks like it's going to last, and they're going to need it to last, because there's going to be bigger challenges, as you say, Shorty, going forward. But at least they're going to be equipped for it. He's nurturing them, Marty. He's teaching them. They're learning something every time they go to training. And when they walk out of Carrara each day, they're keeping the pressure on, manufacturing the pressure for each other, keep them up to the mark, which is great. And better things to come for the Suns going forward, for sure, and they should be playing finals if they can keep this up.
Okay, the reigning premiers, they just continue to do what they have to do. They were behind at half-time, but you just knew that you weren't out of the game with them, and they put the pressure on in the second half and were able to beat the Western Bulldogs 118-97.
Yeah, I will be honest with you. I've watched the first half. I was in betwixt games when it all went down. I missed the third quarter, so I've got to see that. The last quarter, the Dogs did rally. They got within a couple of points again, but they were, I want to watch that third quarter just to see where it all fell apart. And, I think we've heard all the commentary, 9 goals in a row. How that happens, I've got no idea. I'll have to have a good look at it today. But you sort of... You can't start a fight anymore, Marty. You can't do anything short of you. But there must be some way to try and prevent that. And to be chalk and cheese so dominant in that second quarter to get to set up a nice lead and got to with 39 points in front. You shouldn't be losing games from that position, and I don't care whether you play for Hawthorn, the Bulldogs, Carlton, West Coast, whoever. You should be holding on. So I'll have a good look at that. But look, the Cavalry's not too far away. We know how good the Lions can be. And, that's the best start they've had ever, I think, just about their history. So 5-0. So we know they're going to be top four, if not higher. The Dogs were hanging around, but Bontempelli back next week. Waitman's had another setback. Treloar, you can't worry about who you haven't got, but they just lack that one or two quality-type players, and you can't replace Bontempelli. I mean, so from that point of view, he's going to give him a real fillip next week when he comes back against the St Kilda. So you can't be too. You've done a lot of things good if you're kicking 100 points and losing to the top team. So, yeah, they're just going to try and get the positives out of that, eradicate some of those negatives from the third quarter, and they'll be somewhere near the fight in the next month.
I don't think they've lost too many admirers given their key outs, the Western Bulldogs. In fact, if anything, they've unleashed the fact that they've got some pretty good depth. I've been impressed by the endeavour shown by them, given some of the tricky times they've had injury-wise. Brad, Essendon v Melbourne there yesterday. The Melbourne Football Club are now zip 5, and they worked their way back into this contest, but it was Essendon who clicked up and found another gear late, went on to win by 39 points. They showed some vision in the rooms post-match, and Melbourne just looked like a really shattered bunch of players. The group Max Gawn was there. He had 3 or 4 of his teammates. There was hand-in-head stuff. There was a lot of really devastated-looking players. It just looks to be the end of, they've had a pretty good run, Melbourne, but there's been signs of cracks, and right now, zip 5, injuries to some players, a busted-up forward line that doesn't look dangerous at all. It looks like a long season in store for the Demons.
Yeah, well, I heard you late. I hope Racetrack Ralphy had a good Bex and a nice lie down. I know he's very close to the Melbourne Footy Club. Yeah. Look, they've been busted for a while, Shorty. As I said, this is not new to me. When I say that, the 14th last year, Marty, I was very, very confident they wouldn't be making the 8. Yep. They won't even worry teams at this stage. You're right, Shorty, you've covered most of it there. But their forward line's shambles for starters, but they haven't got the competitive spirit anymore. I mean, Oliver's getting towed up. Petrarca's not at his best. Max Gawn is getting older. Viney tackles and not much more these days. Fritz, well, he's he should be playing with Tim Kelly at the Waffle Reserves. They've got a lot of problems down there, and I think Goodwin's he could be the first one to go. Yep. They're sort of telling me around about the halfway mark that if it's not improved, I think there's I don't think I'll think twice about paying out the 18 months that they need to get that done. They've got to change it up. Alan Richardson sitting there as the team, the footy manager at the moment, but he can step in as the interim, and then they can set about trying to find someone else who's going to come in and freshen the joint up, because right now they're just too nice. They are way too nice. Melbourne used to be a hard football club to play against, but they're not anymore, and that's the disappointing part. And this, as you say, Shorty, they always look good on paper, but the game's played on grass.
Coming to cost.
They seem to have lost it.
Yeah, coming to cost for the Bombers. They've lost Nick Bryan. It could be a season-ending injury. It'll be rotten luck. It's rotten luck for anyone when they go down, but particularly for him, because he's really worked hard at his craft, and he's just having his breakout season. And you've got to take that into consideration. It was a major part of their strategy going in was to work over Maxi Gawn with the two of them, and all of a sudden you lose Bryan in the first quarter. Max absolutely ate Draper at the rucking contest, but Draper was very good around the ground. But and that is why they won clearances, because he just gave them first use. But the good thing
Draper
for Messers
was good again, Marty. He's interesting, Draper, because they're talking about him potentially going to Adelaide next year. There's a lot of chat around.
You've got to keep him.
Do the Bombers keep him?
Brad,
I've sort of been of the opinion with him that he's a great energy guy.
Yeah.
He'd be a bit like Maynard at Collingwood. He's the sort of guy that when he's up and about, everyone comes with him. He seems like that sort of player.
100%. The big thing, I thought, Brad, was the improvement in the disposal efficiency for Essendon. Normally they're one of the worst, and they got it to 51-2, which is very good for inside 50, 77 around the ground. So that was a positive. The other positive was if they drop Will Setterfield again, and it's not injury related, then you got to shake your head. He's just a big body midfielder, played on Oliver. You know what he does, Brad? He uses the ball. He doesn't blast the thing away and give it up.
Yeah, long time it's gone that, you had a Shane Hurd who didn't want to win the ball. He just wanted to stop his opponent from getting the ball. But that's not the modern way anymore. That's what we were saying about Tim Kelly a few moments ago, with Shorty. Because, and Newman at Carlton and players like that, because Settlefield can be that player. He can match up on, a quality player for the opposition, try and negate him or halve the contest, and then work off him because those players don't run two ways. They're the ones who want to, thank God he's gone. He's running. I got a bit of freedom, and that's when you go out of your way to give the ball to Settlefield or whoever Newman or whoever it may be, Tim Kelly, if they can convert him into it, and hurt the people on the way back, and that's just a given.
I like the guy too because he's prepared to do the
10 tackles.
Down and dirty 10 tackles. Yeah. He goes and it's not just about me having the ball. I'll go and make sure that whoever I'm playing on's not getting a truckload of it, or if they are, they're feeling it. Let's get into the 3 games today, Bradley. Richmond take on Fremantle, 10:35 bounce down this morning. Money strong here for the Dockers. They're into $1.11. Richmond at $6.40. That line 37.5. Total points 178.5. 120 bounce down. St Kilda 260. GWS $1.49. The line 12.5. Total points 165.5. And the late getaway 5:20 p.m. bounce down. Port Adelaide 280. Hawthorn 143. The line 15.5. Total points 172.5. Take us through your thoughts for the 3 remaining games from Gather Round.
Well, this is not malicious or facetious. Fremantle just got to not beat themselves. They can't just can't turn up in the Barossa and say, oh, look at this is all bright and shiny, and we're only playing Richmond. We'll just do what we want to do, because they were quite impressive last week against Brisbane, Shorty. Unfortunately, Lawler's not going to be there. He was a star last week with 24 and 2. But so that's not going to help them. But, Darcy's back in the lineup, and he probably has to ruck against Nankervis all day. Look, I'm waiting to see what the Tiger Cubs can produce 2 weeks in a row, Marty, to be honest. Fremantle have the class factor. They have everything in their favour. They should be getting it done. But again, it's all about attitude in modern sport these days, elite sport, and they just don't want to turn up the wrong attitude, because sometimes ambushes occur. And that's why I was so bullish about the Dogs being, maybe able to ambush Brisbane yesterday. They did early. Unfortunately, it didn't last. So Fremantle have to make sure they're on their game. Should be winning, but I don't want to be stepping into $1.10 or 11.
St Kilda GWS, a good game. So the Giants are ticking along nicely, but Ross has got St Kilda playing his style very nicely. He's got a lot of their younger players playing with confidence. They've got leg speed. This should be a really good contest.
Yeah, well, it's a long ground and it's the narrow one, as we know we saw yesterday, and that will suit St Kilda, because they do the Orange Tsunami. They like to win the ball on the inside, get the ball on the outside, and that's how that tsunami comes. I think St Kilda will be able to block the corridor, and really they'll have to try and stifle, because they don't want the ball down there to Jesse Hogan and Cadman and these sort of guys, Toby Green, Daniels. There's a few there. Toby Bedford got a few last week. Look, I think the Giants can rise. Mate of mine was talking to Kingsley after the West Coast game last week. He said, we're not anywhere near wound up yet. It's a long season. I'm thinking, God almighty. But I do think they'll enjoy the challenge, and that will be from St Kilda, who've won 3 on the bounce. Their best win, no doubt, was against Geelong a few weeks ago, where they were able to cover them at the Marvel Stadium. So, yeah, it should be a classic clash, but I'm leaning to the Giants here. I think they'll enjoy the challenge, Shorty.
Very nice. And the final game, Port Adelaide taking on Hawthorn. Should be a bit of spice in this one. Hawthorn, if you're just doing pure form, though, Hawthorn playing some of the hottest footy in the competition. Port Adelaide, some of the smelliest.
Yeah, this is the big boom game, isn't it? Because of what happened with Ken last year. They should be giving his 20 grand back. Hawthorn way in better shape. Port have been disappointing the last 2 weeks. They haven't really got there. They've got a few players on paper, but I think Hawks are going to be far too thorough for them. They've been waiting for this, not avenging or revenge, but they just want to get back out there and square the ledger, I reckon, and they'll be winning handsomely in that one, I would have thought, after half time. Boys, I just want to make a known. I think you would have heard, or if you hadn't heard, that our great mate, Peter the Buzz Bazzusto, is in the fight of his life at the moment, Shorty. So holding a candle. He's listening as we speak, so we love you, Buzz.
Oh, you, Buzz. Love you, brother.
Absolutely fantastic. What he did at Carlton was unbelievable. Mark of the year, goal of the year, 2-time premiership player. He nearly beat East Perth in the wet in 1978 on his own there one day. You remember that grand final, Shorty? He was an absolute belter. He's one of West Australia's finest. Fantastic fella. He's punching hard. but we need everybody to hold a candle and their best wishes for him because, it is an extreme battle.
Well, he would have liked the Demons' effort yesterday, 61. They beat the Garlic Munchers 50. So that's for you, Buzz. All the best.
That's for you, Buzz. And the Blues did it for you yesterday too, Buzz, man. That's for sure. So I'll keep you in the loop on that. Let's go for another backup this Sunday here, boys. Pakenham Race 3, number, I'm not sure what number it is, Affluential. It'll beat Stern Oil of the day. So $3.20, that'll kick us off. Pakenham Race 3, Affluential. And then we'll go down to Terang. Race 6, number 8, Persian Spirit at even money, Marty. So race 6, number 8 at Terang. And then go race 7, number 10, Zuryap. Well, I reckon I'll win the Terang Cup at $2.60. So Affluential, $3.20, Persian Spirit, $2, and Zuryap, $2.60. $16.64. We're going to battle up again today there, Shorty.
Okay, for Group 1 Mort, Steve Sell and all the team. Bradley?
Yes, absolutely. 1-800-100-100. You can do things the banks can't. Don't forget our great mate Mort's. He's got 17 stores. Got to be one near you. And also on weekends and during the week, Frankie Lee at Ross's Oxen. He's a champion.
See you, Brad.
On you, Bradley.
See you, boys.
Sunday morning, we will do the talking on the Aftermath with Marty Young and David Shortte on Tab Radio Racing and Sports.
Up to dead chase, then Circle of Fire. Duke de Sessa slipping right along the rails from Athabaskan. Now the runs are starting out wide. Warmonger, mostly cloudy. Cleveland hooking right to the outside. So Alaucan swings in front from River of Stars. Alaucan, she might be gone. Yes, River of Stars and Arapaho have moved up. Athabaskan chimes in right down the outside as Cleveland with a good run, mostly cloudy. But Arapaho dashes clear. It's Arapaho 2, 3 lengths in front in the Sydney Cup. Oh, Arapaho. Well, second crack at the Sydney Cup, and today's the day. Arapaho, a big winner. Waltham at big odds got up to run second. River of Stars third, then mostly cloudy.
Well, there it is, the Sydney Cup yesterday, taken out by Arapaho for Björn Baker and Rachel King. Rachel joins us this morning. A very good morning and congratulations.
Good morning, guys. Thank you.
How's the head this morning, Rachel? Celebrations last night?
Oh, as you can imagine, with the Baker team, there's always some good celebrations, and we make the most of these big days, definitely. So, it's just sort of suitably hungover, probably.
Yeah.
Not too bad, you know.
I love that. Suitably hungover. Beautiful. What about over the concluding stages? You sort of had a 200-metre gallop, if you like, to take it all in. It must have been a wonderful feeling.
It was. I was confident, but I also didn't want to be too confident because it is a 2-mile race, and at the end of the day, I didn't know if, something might have been sort of coming from back and coming to run us down. But geez, the way he accelerated, it did definitely give me a chance to probably enjoy it more so than I have probably other Group 1s.
Rachel, just on that, I heard your interview post-race and you mentioned about how popular this horse is within the stable and what a really special win it was for Bjorn. We know every win seems to be special for Bjorn. He's having a lot of success in recent times, so we're used to seeing the celebrations, but this was a special win. Tell us a little bit about this horse and what it's meant to the stable.
Yeah, look, he is, and I think everyone always says it the same. He's a very special horse to us all. He's got some incredible owners in him that are, long-standing clients of Bjorn's, and I think it's been sort of well documented. It was only last year when we lost one of his owners as well in Griffo, and he was a huge supporter of the stable and always had horses there, and which his family actually found out after he passed away how many he had there because they had to take over all the ownership of them. But no, this was his main horse, and like I said, all of the owners that are in him are just amazing people. And like Bjorn said yesterday, I think he said they're not friends that are in him, they're his family, and that's sort of the feeling that this horse gives you. He turns up, and we've taken him to a few of these big days, and he just keeps delivering for us. And also, credit to Bjorn and his vet team as well for getting him back. He got pretty sick, this horse. We kept getting temperatures, not long ago, and it took a long time to get him back and get him back on track after winning the Tancred. And, just to come back and win another Group 1 is an incredible effort from everyone.
I know Shorty and I loved that win in the Sandown Classic when you gave him a peach last year in November. We were both on him, watched it in here together, didn't we, Shorty? It was
Correct.
Just an amazing ride. And it was sort of similar there yesterday. You always had him in the right spot. And I was very interested to hear Bjorn talk about, he said we gave this horse a bit of the Murray Baker treatment on the Thursday, and it sounds like he must have given him a rousing sort of a track gallop. It's something the old trainers like to do with their 2-milers, is really put some legs in, miles into their legs in that week leading in.
Yeah, look, I sort of probably haven't even coming from Europe, I haven't quite experienced what the length of gallops he did this week with that horse, but it worked. And as Bjorn said, he's learnt from the best. Look, Murray was incredible trainer of stayers, and he had a couple of, just nothing sort of too fast, but just solid gallops and get those miles into his legs during this week, and it paid off. And it meant, I could give him a little squeeze out the gates and be where I wanted to be, but then also it meant that he came back and went to sleep. So, getting that first half of, or first probably 3/4 of the race right in a 2-mile race is just as important as getting the last bit right.
Just to be able to get into that rhythm and find a spot. It was a wonderful ride and a wonderful victory, but it was the second leg of a double, because earlier on in the day you got aboard this nice 2-year-old from the Nick Olive stable in Spicy Lou. Was a good start to your day?
It was, yeah. Look, she looks like she's a beautiful filly coming forward, and credit to Nick. He's, it probably looked like he was throwing her in the deep end a little bit, but she stepped up and delivered, and she's still doing a bit wrong. She was pretty green and not quite sure, what was sort of happening there. She actually hasn't led a race before, so it was a bit new for her yesterday, but she's definitely got some raw ability there, and, Nick's obviously a very good trainer, and I'm sure he'll be targeting the right races with her from here.
And yourself, Rachel, it's been amazing, hasn't it, the last few years? You're now a globe-trotting jockey all around the world. You're riding at the big carnivals these days. I think we're past the pinch yourself moment. You're ensconced there in probably the best racing, I'd say the best group of jockeys in the world that ride regularly in Sydney, and you're up there with the best of them.
Yeah, it's competitive, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And I think, I've been, like you said, I've been very lucky to get to do, a lot of travelling the last sort of couple of years now. And I've appreciated those opportunities so much. But, coming back to this competitive jockey's room, every time I go away, it gets tough coming back, that's for sure. But, I just have to be very thankful to all of my connections and owners and trainers that, do keep continuing to support me. And even when I do disappear for a month here or there and travel a bit, getting to come back and, ride a horse like Arapaho makes all the travelling worthwhile and all the hard work worthwhile.
Indeed. Speaking of the travel, Rachel, you have seen some different racing jurisdictions in recent times. I think I saw you up there in Dubai, around that neck of the woods for a little while, not too long ago. Tell us a little bit about how challenging it is being a jockey when you're travelling to these different places, and I guess having to do it out of a hotel room or something along those lines, and still maintaining a really strict diet and being able to get around to the different facilities and the like. How challenging is it for a jock when you are travelling on the road like that?
Yeah, it definitely is. It's challenging, but it's for me, it's a challenge I enjoy. Going to these different places and exploring the different racetracks and different kind of horses and things like that. And I think I find it beneficial. I think it helps my riding. It helps me when I come back to Sydney, even, because you just get that little bit more experience. And I guess it sort of opens your eyes a bit to different places, and I think it can only help, my career going forward. But look, I'm very lucky in the way that I'm a natural lightweight. I don't have to sort of worry too much about diet and things like that, which does make obviously travelling that little bit easier. But I've probably learnt how to live out of a suitcase for a while and pack all my race gear up and, move to the next place. But it's definitely a challenge I really enjoy.
Just back to Arapaho, so Melbourne Cup.
I think we have to, don't we?
Yeah, of course. Track record yesterday, why not?
Exactly, yeah. Look, and carrying that weight and running a track record was an incredible performance. And, he has had a go at a Melbourne Cup and a Sydney Cup prior to yesterday, but he's a different horse now than what he was then. He's bigger and he's stronger, and I know it probably sounds funny because he's an older horse now, but he is a European. He's taken a little bit of time to mature, but the way we've seen him just improve and, like I said, strengthen up over the last couple of years, he's done an incredible job. And I think, he proved yesterday he can run 2 miles. So, we'll definitely have to aim up there again in November.
Thanks for coming on. All the best, Rachel.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Thanks, Rach.
Absolute star, Rachel King. We followed her very, very closely. Just up there with the best of them now.
She is. Gets around, jet sets. Like you say, it's a small place now, the way that people can travel to these race meetings, and people like Tommy Marquand that's just been across here, but Andre Atzini, Karis Teaton, Huey Bowman's up and down a little bit.
Christophe Lemaire was there yesterday.
J Max all over the place. It's, gee whiz, once you're at that top level, very lucrative.
Now, morning, boys. After watching Collingwood v Sydney Friday night, there was one glaring trend in the way Collingwood played. Not once throughout the entire game did the Magpies backline look to switch or even look across the other side of the field. Maybe go back and look at their first 3 games and the same thing occurred. They simply get Cameron and Myercheck on the wing and more numbers at their feet to transition the ball. I think the big thing with Collingwood at the moment, there's 2 things. They're really fit and healthy. I know they'd lost 3 going in, but the players that come in, you saw what happened there with Long. He was fantastic, Ned Long, and even young Lockie Sullivan played really well, I thought. But and Will Hoskin Elliott, he's a great player to come in and out of a team to be your 24th, 25th.
Great depth player.
Oh, yeah, depth player. So, but they have got great system, and Sydney just could not move the ball any dare.
Nope.
Because they would have looked up and said, hang on, where are we going here?
It was a grid. It was gridlock, baby. Yep. She was gridlock. The other thing I'll say about Collingwood right now, their 2 most senior players on their playing list are playing football as if they're in the prime of their life. I speak of Steele Sidebottom and Scott Pendlebury. These 2 guys, whatever they're drinking, whatever the elixir is, please send a bottle over to you and I, Marty, because we could certainly do with a little bit of it. They have both been magnificent so far this season. And as the season goes on, you have to watch that because, the games can take their toll. But if they can be in a spot where they can manage the time of these 2 gentlemen as the season goes on, they're going to be very important for them as the season goes on. And the other man I want to give a massive seal of approval and a great big tick to is Darcy Cameron. He has emerged as one of the most talented big men in the AFL, and this has been going on for a little while now. It's taken most people quite a while to work it out, but he is a legitimate, high-quality man around the ground. He's very good in the ruck contest, and the thing that he does, and it's a little bit Dean Cox, it's a little bit old school, he goes back and fills the hole. So when players are looking to kick inside, and it's a brave thing to do because often you've got the big full forward coming out full tilt and you're the man in between, but he's happy to fill that hole and he takes a bunch of intercept marks or at the very least fills the spot and clogs up the forward line for the opposition. Right. So he's been really important for them.
Beautifully. I heard the Kane Corns yesterday say, have you ever seen a player who just pops up at the right place at the right time like Steele Sidebottom does? But the ball just gets kicked out of a pack, and where's it? Oh, there he is. He said the reason why he just reads it that quickly, he reads it before anyone else.
Indeed.
So he gets to the right position. I'll tell you another thing about Collingwood, their running stats. They're not a hard, even though you think they are, they run smart. The amount of sprints that they don't do in a game is quite amazing.
It's more about setup.
They know where they're running. Those old legs and smart old minds, they go, I don't have to run as much. And
like the canny squash player, just working you around the court while they're just playing
100%. And so many times you look at the badder sides, and they've got huge running stats, but they're all running around like headless chooks when they don't have to.
Indeed, yeah. But a lot of the system, though, is a big part of that. You've nailed it.
Morning, guys. And Fife, hamstring. Is this it for him?
Well, yesterday the report that I saw was that it doesn't look great. Whether or not, I don't think that he would pull the pin at this time of the year, to be honest. I think he would attempt to get back and go through and work his way back in for some sort of farewell deeper into the season. But I think he knew at the start of the year that it was probably going to be more of a depth style player at this stage of his career. He hasn't got anywhere near his best footy in recent years, but just having him around the club certainly wouldn't be doing anybody any harm, I wouldn't have thought.
This was from Lisa of Ellenbrook. She went on to give the West Coast a good pull through as they deserved. And until they fix up what's going on behind the scenes, the club is going nowhere. What they just dished up yesterday was unacceptable. There is a disconnect and disharmony amongst the players. The club is a complete shambles. Have a great day. Thanks, Lisa.
Big part of that, Marty, is acknowledging where your program is at. So right now, as long as they acknowledge we're in a hole, we're struggling, they can then move forward and go. So like we just talked about, like Richmond have done, and Richmond already has shown this year that there's 6 or 7 of these young guys that have come in. They're not going to take 50 games to be ready. Some of these guys every second week are looking ready almost now.
And there's a couple there. Like I love Archer Reed.
He's big time. Got beautiful size, moves really nicely, big set of hands.
Forward, big hands, goes back, kicks a good goal.
So he's a ready-made replacement for an Oscar Allen.
Ross is showing a bit.
Yeah.
You know. Another one here, guys. Sam Mitchell rates Warple as his first player picked every week, and I would too, and there is no way he'll be traded. And Shorty, Kelly in the past 3 years has had one-way traffic, and that doesn't work in today's football. Will he be there next year? Someone must ask the question. If not, then they need to let him go.
Yeah, well, look, maybe that's how it'll turn out. He's still one of their more productive ball winners is what I would say. When he's not there, and yesterday's another good example of it, he has got a bit of class about him. And when he's not there, they lack class.
Lifelong Eagles fan. Unfortunately, the club is more concerned with ticking the politically correct box and winning footy. Have a look at their social media for Australia Day. So I haven't had a look at that, but
we'll leave that one out through to the keeper.
And Suey, our good mate. Once I saw the head-on shot, I knew Joker's Grin was in trouble. I think the right call was made. By the way, the crowd was pretty ordinary for Italian Day. Well, we'll discuss that with Lockie Taylor, the whole Joker's Grin thing.
Jeez, he's looking well. He's looking well this morning. Oof.
Now, who we got here? We're talking greyhound. Steve Shinners online.
Excellent. Well, he'd be pretty happy too, Marty, because last night there at Cannington, La Sagrada stepped up to the 715 metres for the first time in a heat of the Miata, the race named after our superstar stayer, and was able to put on a really impressive performance. And, of course, he's got Miss Envy not far away from the Sandgroper as well, Marty. So lots to discuss.
Yeah, he's online.
Okay, Steve, welcome along to the Aftermath and congratulations. That was a really nice debut run over the longer trip for La Sagrada. You would have been stoked with that.
Yeah, morning, Shorty, morning, Marty. No, it was absolutely wrapped, Marty. You just never know until they get over there. I mean, she'd gone super and broke the record the first 600 she had, and we always had the opinion that down the track she would be a fair chance. But as I said, you just don't know until that last 50, and she ran it out super. So I'm very pleased with her.
Pulled up well this morning.
Yeah, she knows she's had a run, that's for sure. It's a bit different when you're only running 600. Like you've just gone for a light jog, but on the bone and doing it hard the whole way. So yeah, she's happy with herself, but she's definitely not jumping hurdles this morning. That's for sure.
That's fair enough. Well, what do you do? So there's often many people when they talk about stayers in the greyhound world say their first up run, they run through the pain barrier, but the second week they can sometimes come out and be a little bit flat. As a trainer, do you do to make sure that there's no flat run for La Sagrada heading into the Miata final next week? Is it anything different to what you've been doing with it at this point in time? How will you go about the next 6 days in the build-up to that big feature?
Yeah, look, probably the most important thing is to flush all the lactic acid out. As you know yourself, if you run your pull-up sore, is to get that through them. I think that's the most important thing. Just normal work is normal. Probably give them a nice hydro bath. And, it's one of those things. Very few of them do back up the next week. I did notice even Paulie's dog last night, it didn't even qualify for the final. And it ran a real good race the week before too and didn't sort of bat it up this week. But, it's just one of those things. Not many of them ever run to their absolute best. If they're really good dogs, obviously they can still get over it. And look, I mean, she was still eligible for the low-grade races, but just the way that it worked out, we didn't even get a chance to run her through them. There was none on. But, look, we've had a pretty high opinion of her since day one. So I thought if she's going to make a good stay, it's not going to matter if we miss a couple of races. So, she's doing everything right. So see how we go.
Are the box draws least important in the staying races as they are the sprints?
Well, normally they are, but you wouldn't believe it. There's about 4 or 5 dogs with early speed in this race, and as to do with most finals we draw in, we're usually stuck out in the car park 5, 6, 7 or 8, and it's happened again. But Callum tells me that the dog on her inside does begin pretty well and go over to the fence, so that's probably a bit of a key to the race. And it's still important, especially with her. She is going to be a front-running stayer, and there is like probably 2 or 3 in that race that probably all want to lead at the same time. run. So, yeah, it'll just be whoever gets that luck into the first corner.
So La Sagrada's got box number 8, Miss Ronnie Mack in 7, Borrico Summer 6, Flying Free to 5, West on Prancer 4, West on Booney 3, Floors and Sins 2 and Hippie Trail 1. Miss Ronnie Mack should potentially give you that nice run across in the early stages with La Sagrada, and that's really all she needs, Steve, a little bit of room to muster, and once she gets a few steps in, she can really accelerate swiftly.
Yeah, for sure. I think last night she went 15.81 through the market. You know, that'd probably win most of the 275 metre races, and that's what the good stayers do. A great grandmother, Obie Hay, was exactly the same. She used to just break them up going through the early and middle sections, and look, she'll improve dramatically on a run home. So she might get down off 41.4 after a few runs, and hopefully she can start travelling around with Miss Envy and take on the staying races while she's in the sprint races. It'd be great.
Not long to go until the Sandgroper. You've got the sports bet slot with Miss Envy. How's everything going with this girl heading into the big one?
Awesome, yeah. Look, we had a bit of a setback in Sydney. She got pushed into the running rail going down the back and pulled up a little sore, but nothing major, which was great. And, she had a gallop here last Saturday morning, and we trialled her on Tuesday, and she ran 23.75 pace to post. And last trial of the night, and Brent, the track, because the track's not even quick, Stephen. I said, I know. I said, she's absolutely airborne. So she'll have an exhibition trial probably on Wednesday, hopefully either before the meeting or between the races. Got to just speak to Dennis on Monday, and that'll top her off. She'll just have a light gallop here probably the next Saturday morning up at home, and then into the race on the Thursday.
We've still got 2 slots to be decided here for the Sandgroper, or do we know what's going on there?
Arna's just waiting for that to come through in the next little bit. Shouldn't be far away, though, but it's going to be a hell of a race. Kenya All-Class, Miss Envy, Tim Zoo, Deadly Avenger, Good Odds, Cobble, West on Sydney. Magnificent. Can't wait for it. It's going to be a big one, and Miss Envy will be one of the key players. Thanks for your time this morning, Steve.
No worries, boys.
All the best. There we go, Steve Shinners. Thanks for coming on the program.
Cheers. Thank you, Marty. Have a great Sunday, punters.
And coming up next, Racing Rewind with Richie Bell and Lockie Taylor.